I made the Python template for Revit that I will use for all my small Revit tools. After more than 35 small Revit tools, I realized that most of them follow kind of like the same structure. They have like a window to ask the user for inputs, they have like a progress bar to also show the user how the progress is going, and so on. So I'll leave you the link in the description, and let's jump into Revit. So the Python template is basically a Dynamo file, so you don't need any external add-ins or anything like that to open it and to run it. Yeah, I'm just gonna open here. It is 100% IronPython, so if you don't have IronPython, you may just get like a message here. You just need to double click to open it. Yeah, I think the best way to actually show it is to run it and to show the code while I show the functionality. So there are like different sections like libraries, external events, custom classes, windows, static functions, and the main thread. So I'm gonna start with the main window. Yeah, this is basically what is being shown here. This class defines, well, the basic variables. It defines the font size. This is useful for if there's like different screen resolutions, but also it defines all the, let's say, all the controls that are shown here. For example, we have the bottom main, which is this button over here, the checkbox here, or the text box here. So each one of the controls has more configuration at the bottom. So for example, this one is the top line that I have here. I use it because I like how it looks, like this purple line over here. But also, for example, the text box has the sample text that is shown here, and the sample bottom, which is this bottom over here. So for example, for bottoms, to define the actions that happen when the bottom is clicked, I use some functions. In this case, well, for this bottom is extra process, is down here, extra process. This function is called when the bottom is pressed. So if I press here, I'm gonna get sample message to show to the user is here. So this is just a placeholder to replace for your code to do something else, right? Main window, yeah, we have a group as well. I like to have this kind of like groups in some tools, so I can group the different controls into sections or something like that. But of course, I mean, I could add like more controls if I want here. I will just need to, well, use this structure dot whatever control I want to add. And then, yeah, there is also like the name of the control, the position, the site, but also the tooltip. I use this so whenever the mouse hover over, there is a message shown, and this is useful to show more details about what is going on in that control. There's some general settings for the window. This is, for example, like the size of the window, how big it is. So I've set this to 200. It's gonna be a little bit bigger, a little bit higher. But also if I want to center it in the screen whenever it's shown at first. And finally, it's also important to add the controls to the window. If you don't add them, they won't be shown. If I want to show the window topmost, which means that it shows on top of everything. I usually like to do that because if you have like different windows overlapping, it shows the tool straight away. Yeah, I've commented this part because you may not have our Revit Add-In installed, but if you want to uncomment it, this is a way to actually set up the icon in the top corner. So you can just change the path here, and that will change the icon shown here. You need an icon file, I must say, but yeah, you can find online converters to do that. Yeah, I usually also have like this function, which is to enable, disable controls. And that's useful because in Revit, sometimes whenever you have like a control being run, for example, if I click on delete, right now, because I click on delete, Revit is waiting for me to select something. So if I go into the window and I click here, nothing is going to happen. So I have this function that shows the user that Revit is blocked by another command, in this case is delete. And if I press escape, well, let's say the actions is going to be run. So I'm gonna press escape, and then I get this is the progress window. Yeah, I want to go into the progress window. So this is shown through the click here. This window is basically something that contains, well, as well all the control zone, but there is something that is key, which is the interrupt variable. I use this variable to know if the user has interrupted the process or not. So initially it's always set to false, but if the user press on the interrupt, the process is going to detect that the user interrupted the process. So that happens here. So whenever the button is clicked, the button to interrupt, or the window is closed, that variable is going to be turned to true. So I can later on detect it and show the message. It does also have like a similar structure. You have like all the different, let's say, controls, plus some basic configuration of the window, like sizes, names, icons, and so on. So the next part I want to show you is, well, there is some static functions. I'm not gonna go into here. This is a little bit more advanced, but feel free to check it out. I added some comments, mainly to swallow non-critical warnings. So if you want to work with more complex processes, I usually use this failure processing function to control which errors warnings are shown or not. For the main thread, this is quite important. This is what is being run initially. So whenever the tool is run, what it does, it creates the main window. It uses the class app there to create the main window object, and then it shows it. And then, yeah, the user defines what to do within the main window. The rest is defined all within the main window, let's say. There is something else that is called the external event. And this is something that Revit API has to call code that is within Revit API. So if you just call code out of the context, it will just raise some issues and so on. So you need to follow this structure to run the code. So, well, you could follow other structure. There is like a different structure, but I usually use this one because this structure allows me to run the tool, but not block Revit UI. So I can zoom in, zoom out, and I could have here, for example, select elements, and I could click here and select the elements here with no issue. Yeah, for creating the external event, I have like a class that I'm gonna go into 1 second. Yeah, this code is basically something to just create the external event, and I pass it into the window basically. So for the external event, this is the basic structure that yeah, Revit API defines. So it needs to have like a execute method and then like a get name method. You could have the name of your event here. So whenever the user is going to the undo action, they see this name over here and they can actually identify which action is to undo. But the code of the external event, I always encapsulate it in a try except clauses. And that's nice because if there is any exception, you are going to be able to, well, to see the message. I capture the message here, but also I usually show the line of the code that has the error. So I can go straight away into that line for that. Yeah, I don't think I said it, but actually the external event is the place where all the code that modifies the Revit document happens. So starting from the basic variables, I get here the document, the application, the Revit version sometimes useful as well because there may be changes from one version to another. I use the main window variable to get data from the main window. So if I want to get this text, for example, I could use main window dot, I think it was called like text box or something like that, and then text. And with this, I will get the text property of the text box. And that's a pretty straightforward way to get the information that the user set for the different controls in the main window. So before actually processing it, I always set up the main, well, not the main, the progress window. The progress window is what we saw here. Yeah, I create the window progress. I set up some values for the progress bar, and then I hide the main window and show the progress window over here. Then I go straight into, let's say, modifying the Revit document. A transaction is almost always needed, so if you want to make changes to a Revit document, you need to follow this structure as well. So this is, you need to set up a transaction with a name, and then start it, and then either commit or roll it back. So within that transaction is where you can change the document. If you want, for example, to delete elements, if you want to create views, create sheets, or whatever you want to do with it. So yeah, I always use kind of like this structure to update the progress window. So if I usually have like a loop that iterates through all the elements to process, and within each step of the loop, I update the progress window. So I update what the text that should be shown. Like here, I update the value of the progress bar. And these two lines are basically just to update the UI and to show and refresh the UI. Finally, I also check if the progress bar was interrupted. So if it is interrupted, the loop is going to be break and the transaction is going to be rolled back. So no changes are made to the document. And then depending on interruption or not, it is either shown the message or not. I know it's a little bit more complex than the video I made, but I think it's going to be of great value for all those starting to make their own small Revit tools. So I hope it helps. Feel free to get it from the link in the description again. And thanks for watching. Bye-bye.